Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's third video. We're doing GavsWeatherVids Sunday Roundup for today's third video. So this is going to be your eclectic mix of this and that. We're going to be looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, the QBO, the AO, the LEO, and also what's going on with Arctic sea ice extent. And I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that first video release date was our 6 AM UK weather forecast. We've released a 7th autumn 2023 update. It can be live streaming at 6 PM this evening. We're going to live stream our 10 to 14 dayer, and also we'll have loads and loads and loads of long range data on that live stream as well. So it's going to be epic. It will run for over an hour, and I shall see you at 6 PM this evening. This will be a little bit of a different Sunday roundup, so there's not going to be any weather data in with this. As I said, we're going to include that in the live stream at 6 PM. This is going to be purely looking at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature anomalies, etc, etc, etc. Hope that's okay with everybody. It's the penultimate Sunday roundup, by the way. There's only one more to go in August, and then we're shelving. We're shelving the Sunday roundups in favour of the winter updates. Can you believe it? The season winter updates, little more than a month away. But one more Sunday roundup to do after this one. I'm going to get this one done for you, so we'll do that right now, I think. Going to start off with solar activity. So this is how the solar disk is currently looking on our side of the disk today from solarham.net. We've got various sunspot regions, quite a lot of them, all over the place, actually, all over the solar disk, and so therefore solar activity has been at moderate levels. It's expected to fall to low levels in the next 3 days. This is the GavsWeatherVids Sunday Roundup Solar Activity Tracker sent through by our good friend Shryan Brill. Thank you so much, Shryan, for sending this through. This is depicting every day's worth of sunspot activity all the way back to New Year's Day 2022. And back then, we was at quite a low level, actually, down here. But now, we are just here. Now, the green line, which is the trend line, is showing a very clear upwards trend. So obviously the trend line starts here and is currently up to there. So clearly we are moving up into solar maximum. The orange spots indicate each individual day's worth of sunspot activity. You'll notice these orange spots just here back in the earlier part of June, or around the middle part of June, and that actually took solar cycle 25, current solar cycle, above anywhere but it's been so far in this solar cycle. So the previous maximum for this solar cycle was just here, which was back in the earlier part of the year. Then we get a little bit of a lowering, and we've gone up again into the middle part of this year. And we're still some way away from solar maximum, actually. We're not expected to reach solar maximum until 2025, so there's still plenty of time for this solar cycle to power up even more. At the moment, we are easing backwards a little bit. Of course, it's not a linear process to go into solar maximum. It's not that every single month will be more active than the previous month. So one month will be very active, another month will be a little bit less active, the next month might be a little bit less active still, then the next month might be even more active, and then less active, and then a little bit less active, and then the most active it's ever been, then less active. And that's how we go on as we move into solar maximum. It's the same for solar minimum as well. When we come into the declining phase of the solar cycle, that also is not a linear process. But obviously you can see from the way the thick green line is moving from there to where it currently is, that the trend, which is important, trend is your friend, that is going in an upward fashion. This is how solar cycle 24 is compared, or solar cycle 25 is compared to solar cycle 24, the last solar cycle. You can see that we have actually had our most active month, not only for solar cycle 25 so far, but compared to anything in solar cycle 24. So the previous two maximums for solar cycle 24 occurred in 2011. The first one at the end of 2011, and the second one, it was the maximum of the solar cycle, occurred in the early part of 2014. In between, we actually went through a relatively quieter period through 2012 and the first half of 2013 there, And that's one of the reasons that solar cycle 24 did go down. It was quite a weak solar cycle. But look at this blue spot just here. That's June 2023. And that is above any of the orange spots from solar cycle 24. So at the moment, and it will be the case, that solar cycle 25 is a more active solar cycle than the previous solar cycle, number 24. And yes, we've still got time for even more active months than what we saw there for June 2023. How do we compare solar cycle 23, but solar cycle before last? And that puts things into context a little bit. So this, of course, is solar cycle 25. This is solar cycle 24, and this is solar cycle 23, and that was a really big solar cycle with, again, two maximums. The first one occurring in the year 2000, and the second maximum, which was slightly weaker maximum, occurs in the early part of 2002. And obviously that solar cycle dwarfs solar cycle number 24. Now, for June 2023, the green spot is just here. So again, it confirms that June 2023 was above anything that we saw, any monthly sunspot number that we saw in solar cycle 24. However, it is quite substantially below the maximum months from solar cycle 23. So it's somewhere between 24 and solar cycle 23. It's actually the most active month that we've had since September 2002, which I think is going to be that spot just there. Or maybe that one just there. Difficult to see where September 2002 is on that. But it was the most active month for nearly 21 years in terms of the sunspot number. And as I say, we are still a way off solar maximum. So we're only in the middle part of 2023. It may be another 2 years before we actually have our maximum of this solar cycle. So there is time for further increases for this solar cycle. And it does look as though this is turning into a more active solar cycle than was expected before it started. It probably won't be as active as solar cycle 23, but it looks like it's going to be more active than solar cycle 24. Rich predicted this all the way along years ago. The start of the solar cycle, Richard said, definitely no grand solar minimum, and that we would have a more active solar cycle than solar cycle 24, and that is exactly what is happening here. So yeah, very interesting chart. Thank you. Shows a shrine for keeping those updated, and I think we can basically say RIP GSM for solar cycle 25. We are not going to have a grand solar minimum for solar cycle 25. It's one of those things I've been hearing about, a lot over the past 20 years or so about grand solar minimum. It never really seems to come to anything, and definitely not coming to anything for solar cycle 25. Maybe solar cycle 26 will be the one. Talking of Rich, this is from our good friend Richard Short. This is showing spot this day. Thank you so much to Shrine for updating all of the trackers there. This is from Richard showing spot this days and also the current spot stretch. Thank you so much to Richard for sending this through. So we can see that, of course, the current stretch for spot days is 0 days, given that we have got plenty of sunspots on the solar disk right now. For 2023, every day so far has had sunspots. 2022 just had 1 day that didn't have any sunspots. We've got to go back to 2021 when we had 64 days without sunspots, which was 18% of the year. And then before that, we tumbled down into solar minimum, of course. So 2020 and 2019. They are our solar minimum years, particularly 2019. Had 281 out of 365 days, 77% of the year without sunspots. It was quite a long and quite a deep solar minimum again, which accounted for why the assumption was that solar cycle 25 would be fairly quiet. But as I say, not turning out like that, and Rich always said that this was likely to be a more active solar cycle compared to the last one. How we compare to the last solar cycle year to compare to is 2012, I think. So that had 0 days without sunspots. And so, we're expecting that this year will also have 0 days without sunspots, and that's definitely the way that it's shaping up. Thank you so much to Shryan for the trackers. Thank you so much to Richard for the solar GIF, I should say. Thank you so much to Shryan and also Richard. Great prediction, Rich. Well done. Right, so when we did the last Sunday roundup on the 23rd of June, this is how the oceans were looking. We've got various interest areas. We've got the ENSO region just here. We've got the northern Pacific over there, northeastern Pacific as well. We've got the Indian Ocean just here, and got the North Atlantic Ocean just there. The main interest, of course, was in the developing El Nino and how warm the Atlantic was. Look at those sea surface temperature lines that we have there through the North Atlantic. Absolutely incredible. Hottest recorded month for the North Atlantic in terms of those sea surface temperature anomalies on record. Well, how do we compare? You're going to find out in a sec. Let's do that then. So 3, 2, 1. That's the current scenario as of the 28th of July. And you can see that the Atlantic is still in a very, very warm state, but the warmest area has moved a little bit. But before we get to that, let's deal with the ENSO region. So this, of course, as I say, is the actual Pacific Ocean. This is the signature of El Nino just here, particularly in the eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific Ocean right now. How does that compare to last month? Well, strengthening of El Nino has taken place over the past month in this eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. All regions are warmer than average now. All regions are showing an El Nino signal. In fact, I think El Nino was declared about a couple of months ago officially. So we are in an El Nino event right now. The warmest anomalies are still in the eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. It is struggling, I think, this to make it into a central region. Reason being, this area of cold and average sea surface temperature and not just here to the north of the ENSO region. That is the cold PDO, and for the time being, that signature is hanging on. But you see how it really is being swamped on either side. So we've got these warm anomalies just here, and it's turned very warm in the northern Pacific Ocean as well. So that really is putting this cooler area just here under a lot of pressure. And if we see the cold PDO signature fading out, if this blue area disappears and it warms up, then there will be nothing to stop these very warm sea surface temperature anomalies spreading out along the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We might go off and running, at the very least, into a moderate El Nino event, if not a strong or possibly even super Nino. Wouldn't completely rule that out, but I think it's getting a little bit late on to be able to get a super Nino going, but definitely like a moderate to strong Nino is possible. Talking of the Northern Pacific, just go back to last month. So we saw some cooler than average sea surface temperature anomalies through here last month. A lot of that has disappeared. As I say, we do still have that cold area, which indicates the cold PDO just there, but generally warming up through the northern and also the northeastern Pacific, which is what you would expect given the El Nino, although it does look exceptionally warm here over towards the Asian side of the Pacific Ocean, actually. So really warm sea surface temperature nice there. In the Indian Ocean, not sure there's been too much change really. Things looking quite stable over there. And then, of course, we've got to come to the North Atlantic Ocean. So this is how the North Atlantic looked last month. So again, we see those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies through here. And then it's that little bit cooler through there. Well, now the warmest anomalies have shifted to Newfoundland, to Greenland, really, into this area just here, a marine heat wave taking place there. Excuse me, but all regions of the Atlantic, all areas of the Atlantic Ocean are generally warm on average. We see a very warm tropical Atlantic, which is interesting because that would tend to support quite a big hurricane season, but of course with the El Nino going on, that tends to have a dampening effect on the hurricane season. So that is going to be interesting to see how that works out. But the warmest anomalies to average are definitely up here. We've lost any hint of a tripole for the time being. You remember back in May, and particularly in June, we did have a bit of a tripole signature. We've lost that at the moment, and we're back to just having a generally warm, very warm, exceptionally warm, or record-breakingly warm North Atlantic Ocean, depending on which area you're looking at. This area is record-breakingly warmer than average at the moment. Southern Oscillation Index looks like this. The SOI is an index that's measuring air pressures between Darwin and Tahiti. So when you've got a negative SOI, you've got an El Nino signature. When you've got a positive SOI, you've got a La Nina signature. So we have been seeing strong negativity of the SOI, as you expect with this developing El Nino. So for example, on the 18th of July, we see the SOI at -13, 19th of July, see the SOI at -20, 23rd of July, see the SOI at -22, 25th of July, we go down to -37. We maintain that for 26th of July too to -37.24. Those are exceptionally negative numbers, and so it does look as though the atmosphere is well and truly in an El Nino state, and that is now coupling with the ocean to develop the El Nino even more. So of course you've got to get the atmosphere and the ocean to couple with one another. We can see that the ocean definitely is in an El Nino state. Now that the atmosphere is coupling with that, we can expect this El Nino event to develop further over the next few weeks and months. This is how the SOI 30-day average is shaping up. So for a while it did go like very weakly positive back in June and the early part of July, but now it's doing a little bit of a plummet. Of course, the 30-day average will move quite a lot. The 90-day average, which is the yellow dash line, tends to move less dramatically so, but even that is on a downwards trend at the moment as well. So from an atmospheric perspective by the SOI, it does look as though we very much see that the atmosphere is coupled with the ocean now. CFSB2 forecast looks like this. So we've got temperature lines on the side for the central portion of the equatorial precipitation, dates and monthly periods along the bottom. We are in an El Nino, but we have reached El Nino threshold, which just bare around 1 degree above average. That's relatively weak El Nino threshold at the moment, but the CFSB2 is forecasting that will strengthen to moderate El Nino values by the end of the summer. And by the time we get into the autumn, around October, November, into December, we're having a strong El Nino being forecast there, up to 2 degrees above average, which is not super Nino, but it does get us to strong El Nino category. That's come down a little bit. You'll remember, like last month, the month before, it was forecasting that the El Nino would go to super Nino levels above 2 or above 2.5 degrees above average. It has backed off that a little bit, but it is still going for quite a strong El Nino event. Whether it gets as strong as that, we'll have to wait and see. It might be that we'll see the El Nino doing something a little bit like that. By the way, we will be doing an El Nino update, I think, sometime this coming week. So we're going to have lots and lots more information about El Nino in the next week. It is time, I think, that we looked at El Nino in a video on its own. So that will be coming up in the next week or so. Moving on to the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation. This is how things are currently looking. So we're moving into the EC phase of the QBO right now. This is from NOAA, depicts all months worth of QBO numbers back to the 1950s. 2023 starts with a westerly QBO. These positive numbers, +12, +9, +10, +12, +9. But last month in June, we saw a dramatic weakening of the westerly QBO, almost a reversal, going down to 0.72. For July's QBO number, we'll be able to confirm this in the next few days. But July QBO number, you would expect that to come in negative. So the first month of the EC QBO looks like it's going to be July 2023, and then beyond that we should see the EC QBO over negative numbers strengthening them as we go off and running into the rest of the year. The last time we went from westerly to an EC QBO phase was in 2021. Started off with both positive numbers there, and then through the summer we reversed it and very quickly went really strong negative actually. So we went from 0.31 to -6 to -13 to -16 to -19 to -21 by the end of the year. So we can probably, if it follows a similar pattern, it may not do, but if it follows a similar pattern, we can probably expect the negative numbers to become very quickly strongly negative through the second half of 2023. Maybe we'll look at the QBO because it's primarily a winter driver actually. When you're in a westerly QBO, you strengthen the zona westers in the northern hemisphere, and so the westerly QBO tends to go with milder, more Atlantic-driven winters, whereas the easterly QBO tends to weaken the zona westers, and so in an easterly QBO you tend to get an increased chance of a colder winter. This is from NASA, so we have to think that these are the levels of the atmosphere starting in the stratosphere at 10 HPA, coming down to the troposphere at 30 to 50 HPA. And again, it just confirms, this blue-green area just here just confirms that the easterly QBO is descending from the stratosphere into the troposphere. This is the last westerly QBO phase, of course, but has just ended, and this is the last easterly QBO phase that we had from 2020 through 2021. So again, it's not, it increases your chance of a colder northern European winter. Doesn't guarantee anything, though. There have been plenty of mild ECQBO winters. A good example of that is the winter of 2021-2022. This one just here, which was, of course, a very mild northern European winter. But we do keep a close eye on it. Now, I haven't seen this for a little while. So this is from the US Ice Centre, and it is showing, well, it would be showing Eurasian snow cover if we had any Eurasian snow cover. Of course, in the middle of summer, so there is no Eurasian snow cover, other than a few little white patches that you've got to squint at screen to make out. But eventually, that whole area is going to fill up with snow, and that's always a favourite in the winter updates, a fan favourite, to see how quickly that snow advance pushes across Russia and Siberia. But going further north, this yellow area just here is where we've got Arctic sea ice, and the blue areas, of course, where the ice has melted, and we've got open water there in the Arctic Ocean. So just have a quick look, see how we're doing in terms of Arctic sea ice extent. We are a little way off the peak of the melt season. That won't be until first half of September. But you can see the blue line 2023, and this grey line just here is the 1981 to 2010 average, I think. Yeah, that's 1981 to 2010 average, 2010 average. So you can see we are underneath that. If we get rid of that and put in more averages, so this is how we're doing compared to 79, 1990. Obviously, we're well under that average. This is how we're doing compared to 91, 2000. We're well under that average. This is how we compare 2001, 2010. A little bit under that one. And the most recent 10-year average is 2011 to 2020. We're actually slightly above the 2011 to 2020 average, but there's not all that much in it. And how are we doing for Arctic size extent compared to previous years? So compared to 2022, that's how we're looking. We're bang on this time last year, actually, with 2022. That is 2021. We've got a little bit more ice this year than we had in 2021. That's 2020. Again, we've got a little bit more ice this year than in 2020. That's 2019. Did a little bit better than that year. 2018, we're bang on. 2018, 2017, very close to that year. 2016, we're bang on that year. 2015, very close to that year. 2014, just a little bit under 2014. 2013, bang on. 2012, we are slightly above 2012. That's the record minimum year, of course. 2011, we're a little bit above 2011 at this point in the melt season. 2010, we're bang on that year. 2009, we are very close to that year as well. 2008, we're a little bit under 2008, 2007. A little bit above 2007 at this point. 2006, we are under 2006, 2005, we're under that year. And then, of course, we go further back, and we're going to find now that we are under all of the years going further back of that. So we won't go any further after 2005 or before 2005. Then every year we'll have more Arctic sea ice than we've currently got. I'd say we're very early on. We won't reach minimum Arctic sea ice extent for this melt season until September. So we will be monitoring that in the early part of our winter updates, of course. Last thing we're going to look at is the Arctic oscillation. So this is how the AO observed and forecast chart is currently shaping up. The black line shows where we've been, with the Arctic oscillation red lines at the end, where the GFS ensembles are forecast the Arctic oscillation to go. We're currently neutral with the AO, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting that the Arctic oscillation will be going into a negative phase through the first half of August. When you have negativity to the AO, remember it's always weather drives the index, and when you have a negative AO, you've got high pressure, you've got blocking over the Arctic and over the North Pole. And so that's not a particularly good signal for the first half of August, because when you get blocking at this time of year over the Arctic and the pole, it tends to send the jet stream southwards and sets up a trough of low pressure across Western Europe. So a negative AO at this time of year would tend to be a signal for unsettled weather for the UK, particularly if it's in combination with a negative NAO. This is the NAO observed and forecast chart. Again, the black line shows where we've been with the North Atlantic oscillation. The red lines at the end, the GFS ensembles forecast the NAO to go. We're currently neutral with the NAO, and forecasters say neutral to very weakly negative with the NAO. So with both of the indexes in either a neutral or more likely a weakly negative state and phase, the first half of August could be shaping up to be really quite unsettled. And if the jet stream goes far enough, may be quite cool as well. And more about that in our live stream, because in our live stream, we will be having a look at the chart data. We're going to do our 10 to 14 day, and that will be coming up for you at 6 p.m. And as well as that, we're going to have loads and loads and loads of long range. We'll look at CFS, we'll look at the Copernicus suite of models as well. So all of that is coming up at 6 p.m. I shall see you live at 6 p.m. for our live stream. If you've enjoyed the penultimate GavsWeatherVids Sunday Roundup for July 2023, please can you like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Make sure you ding the bell. You'll be notified when we release content, videos, community posts, and when we're live streaming as well. So make sure you enable all notifications from YouTube, and the bell will let you know, or it should do, when we're releasing content. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Thank you so much to Shryan and for Richard, not only for the help on this Sunday roundup, but also, of course, for the help on the earlier autumn update, the 7th autumn update, which was a QBO special. Thank you so much to Shryan and to Richard. #TeamGab. For this month's Sunday Roundup for July 2023, that's all for now. I'll see you a little bit later on for our live stream at 6 p.m. But for this one, that's all now, and thanks for watching.